So you followed along with the previous videos. You've got a blank copy of Moodle that looks the part, with the settings, the themes, the plugins you want. Now how do you set it up for the individual learner? First we unzip from the master copy we made earlier with all our relevant changes in. We drag out our server and our click to start file, just as before, onto the base directory, so into the F drive, into the C drive, something local but at that top level. So we should end up with drive letter server, drive letter click to start exe. Unzip there, it may take a little bit of time. Here's one I've prepared earlier. So as previous, click to start will launch the server up and all its relevant pieces, and into our default browser. Meanwhile, on your live actual Moodle server, go to the courses you want and we'll do a backup. Now for this demonstration I might just use qa.moodle.net instead. Imagine instead this was your course, something nice and familiar. Now you don't need to be an administrator to do a backup. Anyone with the ability to backup, anyone with a teacher role will be able to get in there and do that. So if we go to an example course here, we're going to do a backup. Again, if you're using an older theme, this would be the administration block on your left. In the new boost theme, it's in the little cog in the top right instead. We're just going to include everything and see how we go. Okay, backup was successful. So we're going to download this rather small backup. Over here, in the local Moodle, we're going to log in again. We're going to do a restore. And see how we go. So here are the tasks within our unit, or within our course, depending on your terminology. We want to restore as a brand new course into the category units that we set up previously, or whatever you decided to call it. A very familiar scene, the topics from previously, with all the relevant activities and tasks within them, assignment spaces, handouts, and so on. Now the next step will depend on what other systems you use, and is a little bit manual. So for us, we keep our videos outside of Moodle, Kaltura or Echo, depending on the video. And our readings are handled by eReserve. And because these aren't directly part of Moodle, they're not included in the backup. So for these external items, particularly the large videos, I found it's useful to manually save them and add them into a new folder at the top of the course in Moodle with a brief blurb explaining why they're there. So save what you need, go into these systems if you've got external tools repositories, make a folder within our local one. So here, add an activity. I can even put it in the orientation section here. A folder, name it, describe it as relevant. Within the file section we can add these multimedia that are usually outside of Moodle in. And because they're now sitting inside Moodle once we hit save on that, now that they're within local Moodle, they'll continue to work without internet access, just like the other items. So for the next step, we need to create a user account for the student and add them into the course or courses. If you've got multiple students, you can add multiple accounts and add them to their relevant unit. But for file size, I'd only do multiple at once if they're all studying the same units. So we're going to go over to users, into the site administration, across to users, add a new user, just to make it feel a bit more personalized. We can use their username from the original site where we're coming from. We can give them a name as appropriate, and we can enter just a generic password. So you can make something up, something nice and relevant. For security, we're going to make that different to their usual one that they use on the real system, and then let them know what that password is as part of the package. So your normal username and a different password than usual is what I usually go with in this sort of circumstance. So I've given them a name, a username, a password. They exist on the system. We can head over to the course that we've imported, or courses, to the cog, to more, across to users, enrolled users. If you're using a different theme as before, administration block where it has been in the past. Enroll users, here's our student we've created, put them in. This way, when Steve, student here, logs into Moodle, when he receives it on the flash drive, plugs in, clicks start, logs in. When he logs in using this password, he can see the units that's relevant to him because we've added him in. Having done all that, the last thing you need to do is clear the cache. just by running the cron script. So up in the address bar here, if we go to localhost 8080/Moodle like before, /admin/cron.php, running this will quickly run a cleanup script, and because we set things to delete the temporary files to be instant, every time we run that, it'll clean out any leftover files as well. This becomes important, not so much if you've got a small file like the one we just ran, but if you've got a zip, a backup that takes up about a gigabyte, what I found setting it up is that gigabyte of unit content went in, fantastic, but the gigabyte of the backup file itself also hung around. So instead of having 1 gig of files, you ended up with 2 gig. If you had 2 gig of course content, suddenly you're up to 4 gig, and so on. So this is just a way of halving that by taking out the backup from the equation. So as you can see down the bottom, execution took 38 seconds. Not big at all. From there, you can head back to your main page. We've got the course content. We'd repeat that if you were studying more than one course. We've added them to the unit. Now, as before, all we need to do to finalize is stop the server to safely shut it down, close the window, and in the background we should now have the server and a click to start file containing the students' content, the courses they're currently studying. We're going to create a zip file with this as a backup in case anything goes wrong, so we've got a clear copy. Let that go. Give it a nice meaningful name. I typically add the student's name afterwards and what units or courses, and then we're ready to copy this over to the flash drive. So as you'd remember, we've got our flash drive from before. We're going to plug it into the computer. You can see it down here. Once that's finished, we can add those files to the flash drive itself, and this process may take quite a bit of time to copy over, several minutes, transferring across a USB connection. And once that's completed, once it's safely got the files that we need on there, we can eject the flash drive, test on another computer just to make sure, and then it's ready to be sent out.